Hi guys, tonight we're starting with something a bit darker, an unvarnished look at history's tougher moments. So sit back, relax, and let's gently drift back in time together. But before we begin, if you truly enjoy our work, please like and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments what part of the world you're from. Thanks again, and without further ado, here's the hard truth as to why you would never make it as a medieval cobbler. You awake to darkness. The cock hasn't crowed yet, but the weight of the day already presses on your chest. It's winter in your small corner of 14th century Paris, and the frost clings to the rough wooden shutters of your cramped loft. You sleep above your workshop, if you can call it that, a cold, drafty room filled with scraps of leather, bent nails, and the heavy stink of old tallow. You share this space with your wife, your 3 children, and the unrelenting lice that bite you nightly. There's no chimney. The smoke from your fire curls upward and lingers like a ghost along the rafters. You must dress quickly. Rough wool, stiff and scratchy, your boots, ironically patched and splitting at the sole. Even a cobbler can't afford his own craft. You step outside into streets slick with mud and worse. Refuse, waste, things better left unnamed, and head to the communal pump for water before the guildmaster arrives. The workshop of woes. The workshop is no more than a lean-to built against a stone wall in a tangle of alleys near the tanner's district. A blessing and a curse. You're close to leather, sure, but also close to the reeking vats where hides are soaked in urine and animal dung that is used to soften them. The stench clings to everything. It gets into your hair, your teeth, your dreams. Your tools are simple, an awl, a hammer, a bone knife, and they've been handed down to you as your craft was handed down by your father. He died of lung rot, a not uncommon ailment for cobblers who spent decades breathing in smoke from the resin pots and fumes from curing hides. Your hands ache in the cold as you shape yet another sole from stiff oxhide, fingers trembling slightly. Your thumb cracked open and bleeding again. A neighbor drops off an order for clogs. He can't pay today. You nod. You've heard this before. Maybe he'll bring eggs or a half sack of barley, if you're lucky. Guild games and leather politics. You're part of a guild. Technically, the Cobblers Guild, but it's not quite the safety net it's made out to be. The guild protects the secrets of the trade, yes, and it negotiates taxes and pricing with the local magistrates. But it's also a power club, controlled by the wealthier masters who own larger shops and employ dozens. You're just a journeyman. You can't even dream of becoming a master without paying exorbitant fees and passing a test. Crafting a pair of presentation shoes, so flawless they're practically art. The irony is rich. You spend your days making functional boots for peasants and clogs for fishmongers, but to climb the ladder, you must become a shoemaker of nobility, a paradox. And if you're caught selling shoes outside the permitted style, or charging even a few deniers less than the guild price, you'll be steeply fined, heavily. Once, your neighbor tried selling directly to a traveling merchant. The guild found out. He was whipped in public and banned from work for a season. Pain by the inch. Your body is a map of quiet suffering. You spend 10, sometimes 12 hours hunched over your workbench. No light except what trickles in from the high window or the flicker of a greasy tallow candle. Your knees grind when you shift. Your back has developed a permanent stoop. Your fingers are scarred and calloused, but they're your livelihood. If you lose one to a slip of the blade or infection, it's over. The winters are especially brutal. Leather stiffens, tools stick to your fingers, and there's never enough firewood. Your children shiver at night, curled under a damp and cold, straw-stuffed blankets. You keep working. Sometimes you catch yourself daydreaming, imagining a day where you don't have to worry about the rent, the food, the taxes, the giant rats. But then you nick your palm with a nail and snap back to reality. Smells, sounds, and suffering. Being a cobbler means you live among smells, not good ones. The overwhelming scent of leather, harsh, oiled, animalic, is constant, but it mingles with hot wax, foot sweat, and the unmistakable scent of rot. You see more feet in a day than a priest sees in a year. Most are infected, cracked, and riddled with open sores, bunions, corns, frostbite. Sometimes you think the shoes are more humane than the lives they're tied to. Outside, life is no less chaotic. Your workshop wall is thin, and the sounds of medieval urban life break through. The shouting of vendors, the clattering of carts, the distant clang of the church bell marking canonical hours. Horses neigh, children cry, a dog barks, then someone screams. There's a scuffle. It passes. It always does. You pause, take a sip from a wooden cup. It tastes of vinegar. That's because it is vinegar. Water, unless freshly drawn, is dangerous. You've lost 2 apprentices to illness this year. One to the flux, one to something no one could name. False hope and fleeting joy. There are moments of quiet grace. You teach your eldest how to cut patterns, and he beams when he gets it right. A traveling friar comes by and blesses the shop. For a full day, you feel as though something may change. Then your landlord stops by. Rent is due. You offer him a fine pair of boots, your best work. He sneers. He wants coin. You hand over a small pouch with what little you've managed to save. He weighs it, says it's not enough. You promise to make it up next week. He shrugs. Next week, then he leaves. Your daughter enters with a crust of bread and a wedge of cheese. You divide it 5 ways. You don't eat. Your stomach growls, but you're used to that sound. At the end of the day, dusk settles. You extinguish the candle and flex your aching hands. The workshop is quiet now, save for the creak of beams and the occasional scurry of something in the dark. You whisper a prayer to Saint Crispin, patron of cobblers. You're not sure he listens, but saying it gives the illusion of comfort. You lie beside your wife on the straw mat. She's asleep before you. Your youngest stirs. You hush him. Tomorrow will be the same, and the day after that. But for now, you close your eyes and let the dark take you. The madness of the dancing plague. You've heard of wars, of famines, of plagues that empty cities. But imagine, just for a moment, a sickness that doesn't take your breath, but takes your feet, that steals your body, not with pain or rash or fever, but with rhythm. This is the tale of Strasbourg, summer of 1518. A single woman begins to dance in the street, not for joy, not for coin. She dances alone, and she cannot stop. The neighbors don't laugh, they watch, at first with bemusement, then with growing fear. Hours pass, and still she moves. Her arms flail, her legs shuffle and twitch. Her dress sticks to her with sweat. She stumbles, but does not fall. And then, ... more join her. First, a few, then dozens. They dance in alleyways, in the market square, in the narrow gaps between houses. The local physician arrives. He doesn't prescribe rest. No. The common belief is that this affliction is caused by overheated blood. His solution: more dancing. Let them dance it out, he says. Let the fever burn itself clean. And so, musicians are hired. Stages are built. The sick are ushered to the town square, encouraged to continue. Their feet blister and bleed. Still, they dance. This isn't fiction. Contemporary sources: the Chronicle of the Grey Monks, physician notes, city records, all describe the same bizarre scene. Up to 400 people, possessed by an invisible rhythm, unable to stop. Some collapse, some perish. Heart failure, exhaustion, stroke. The city descends into surreal misery. Strasbourg isn't alone. Other towns have suffered similar outbreaks. Aachen, Metz, Utrecht, but never on this scale. Theories swirl in modern minds. Was it ergotism, a hallucinogen caused by moldy rye? Perhaps, but would that cause such coordinated movement? Was it mass hysteria, a psychogenic illness born of famine, hardship, and fear? The summer of 1518 followed a brutal winter. Crops had failed. The Rhine had flooded. Disease had already left its mark. The people were ripe for something, anything, even madness. It's tempting to view the dancing plague through the lens of metaphor. A population under stress, erupting in motion. A society with no outlet for grief, writhing in silent screams. In a city bound by strict religious codes and medieval medicine, the only rebellion was movement itself. Imagine watching it unfold. You live in a house above the Tanner's Row. You hear the drums start each morning. See the twitching figures below your shutters. Some are people you know. A baker's wife, the apothecary's apprentice, your cousin. None of them speak. They only sway, their faces blank, eyes glassy. Priests begin to say Mass daily. A shrine to Saint Vitus, the saint of dancing and epileptics, is erected at the edge of town. The afflicted are taken there, their feet bandaged, their bodies tied down. Some recover, some do not. What were they thinking, those caught in the spell? Were they conscious, screaming inside, or was their torment silent, automatic? We'll never know. Modern scholars are divided. There is no consensus, just records, notes, prayers, and the memory of feet that would not stop. When the final dancer collapses, weeks have passed. The musicians have left. The priests remain. Strasbourg resumes its ordinary suffering. War, taxes, hunger. But something lingers in the air, as if the streets remember, as if the rhythm, once awakened, simply went quiet for a while. In the quiet aftermath, you pass the square where the dancing once stirred. It's empty now, but sometimes, if you stop, you can almost hear it. The faint tap of invisible shoes, the ghost of a beat beneath the stones. And that's how madness danced its way into the margins of history. But that summer of 1518 left behind more than eerie silence. In its wake came questions, not just among doctors or priests, but among mothers, merchants, and magistrates alike. What had truly happened? What invisible force had puppeted their neighbors? Years passed, and the story softened, became cautionary. A tale whispered to children, behave, or the dancing madness will take you. But behind the tale was fear. The fear that under the right pressure, hunger, grief, divine wrath, society could unravel not with violence, but with rhythm. In towns across the Rhine, quiet rituals arose. Villagers would knock thrice on their thresholds before entering at dusk. They would leave grain offerings at chapel doors. No one said why. You imagine, perhaps, a lone old woman in the hills outside Strasbourg. She lives by herself now. She was there in the square. She remembers the drums. Her feet still ache when the moon is full, but she says nothing. She sweeps her doorway clean every night. Centuries later, when historians find letters, council minutes, and marginalia about the plague, they debate their meaning. Some dismiss it as myth, exaggerated by time. Others argue it tells us more about the strain of silence than of madness. Today, the town square is paved. Line the edge. Tourists walk the stones where the dancers once swayed. They sip wine, they pose for photos, and beneath their feet the rhythm waits, quiet, patient, remembered only by stone and shadow. Perhaps that's the final legacy of the dancing plague. Not the deaths, not the theories, but the echo it left. A reminder that in the darkest corners of hardship, the body may do what words cannot. It may dance. The lost skeletons beneath London. Imagine walking the bustling streets of modern London. Double-decker buses, glass towers, coffee shops. But just beneath your feet, perhaps less than a meter down, lie the quiet remnants of a medieval world. Bones, plague pits, forgotten chapels, a city of the dead hidden beneath the one that never sleeps. Let's drift back to the 14th century, to a time when death was more present than electricity, when you lived your life never far from a church bell tolling a final hour. I, the Great. Dig begins. It was 2013 when workers broke ground at Charterhouse Square while expanding London's Crossrail, a vast new railway line. As they cleared rubble and earth, they began to uncover something strange: human bones. At first, just a few, then more, neatly arranged, layer upon layer. What they had stumbled upon was one of London's infamous Black Death burial sites. And this was no ordinary graveyard. It was a mass grave. Dozens, soon hundreds of skeletons, many without coffins, layered like pages in a book. Some wore simple remnants of clothing, a buckle, a fragment of wool. Most had nothing, no name, no marker, just the quiet permanence of bones. 2. How the dead speak. What can a skeleton tell us? More than you might think. Using isotope analysis, a technique that reads the chemical signatures left in teeth and bones, scientists were able to track where some of the dead had come from. Many were Londoners, but some hailed from further afield, Yorkshire, Kent, even as far as Scotland. They weren't all poor either. Some had signs of well-nourished childhoods, suggesting their families had once had means. But the plague cared little for wealth. It swept through the rich and poor alike. Some skeletons bore healed injuries, broken legs that had knitted over time, or signs of repetitive strain suggesting trades like blacksmithing or weaving. Others had nothing unusual, just ordinary people caught in an extraordinary catastrophe. One woman's remains told a particularly grim tale. She bore the signs of advanced rickets and dental decay, but also evidence of a healed broken arm and a poorly set collarbone, suggesting not only the violence of her life, but the poor access to care. She may have been a servant, or worse, a destitute woman caught in the underbelly of medieval society. 3. What the soil reveals. The grave at Charterhouse wasn't just a pit of despair. It was a time capsule. The way bodies were arranged told archaeologists about panic, protocol, and even piety. Unlike some mass graves where corpses were dumped hastily, many of these skeletons had been carefully placed. That suggests that even in terror, people tried to maintain dignity, to honor the dead. to lay them down with some semblance of peace. Nearby, remnants of a chapel once stood. Lost long ago to fire and development, it would have been the spiritual heart of the burial ground. And within the soil, scientists found trace elements, ash, lime, pollen, telling stories of rituals and hurried burials amid blooming summer plagues. And then there were the children, so many children, tiny skeletons curled beside mothers. Infants placed gently, sometimes even in cradled positions, their small bones no thicker than quills. Some showed signs of illness, curved spines, malformed skulls. Others appeared healthy, victims of nothing but chance and contagion. For other graves, other secrets, the Crossrail site wasn't alone. In recent decades, London has given up many of its subterranean secrets. At Spitalfields, another ancient burial ground revealed Roman remains mingled with medieval ones, evidence of a city that has been built and rebuilt, layer upon layer, layer upon layer. Another pit of plague victims was uncovered, this one more chaotic. A rush burial that showed signs of fear overtaking formality. Some graves even held strange anomalies, bodies buried face down or with stones placed upon their chests. Scholars debate the meaning. Was it fear of the undead or just coincidence? In a world thick with superstition, it's hard to know. One grave, uncovered in Southwark, held a woman with signs of surgical intervention, a trepanned skull where a small hole had been bored into the bone, perhaps to relieve pressure or release spirits. She did not survive, but her skull told a story centuries later. Still, other sites have turned up hints of ritual protection. Iron nails driven through shrouds, or strange herbs scattered atop corpses, possibly intended to ward off evil or seal the grave. The layers of a city. London is not alone in this. All great cities are built upon the dead, but in London, those layers are particularly rich, partly because so little of the past was cleared before the future was built atop it. Builders routinely strike old walls, bones, relics. Some call the city a palimpsest, a manuscript written over, again and again, each layer faintly visible beneath the next. Roman roads, Saxon halls, Norman churches, plague pits, Victorian basements, it's all there, stacked like sediment. One worker, digging the foundation of a new office block in East London, uncovered what appeared to be a tiled floor. From the Roman era, it lay just below a layer of black soil filled with charred wood, evidence of the Great Fire of 1666. And beneath that, more bones. And when we dig, even for something as mundane as a railway line, we brush against the quiet humanity of the past. Not just kings and queens, but cobblers, dancers, bakers, and children. What we've learned, the skeletons beneath London have taught us about more than plague. They've revealed migration patterns, nutrition, dental health. Some even contain DNA sequences of long-dead pathogens, allowing modern scientists to better understand ancient strains of Yersinia pestis, the bacterium behind the Black Death. They've also raised questions about how we remember and what we forget. Most of those buried were never named in life, but now, hundreds of years later, we know more about their bones than their biographies. Their skeletons are studied, catalogued, displayed. It's a strange sort of immortality. In a sense, these people have become ambassadors for the forgotten. Their bodies, uncovered by accident, now speak for millions who were buried without records. And in some cases, Relatives of these long-dead Londoners still walk the city, unknowingly treading above the bones of ancestors. 7. Quiet echoes at night. The city hums. Electric trains glide over steel rails. Horns honk. Neon signs blink to life. But if you could somehow listen deeper, beneath the cobblestones and concrete, you might hear softer sounds. The creak of a wooden cart, the murmur of a priest's Latin prayer, the faint sob of a mourner, the hush of earth closing over another soul. History doesn't disappear. It waits, silently, patiently, beneath our feet. And when we dig, we don't just find bones. We find stories. We find ourselves. A day in the life of a noble lady. Imagine waking up beneath a heavy canopy of embroidered silk, in a room that smells of lavender and old stone. Your mattress is stuffed with feathers, your chamber dimly lit by slanted beams of morning sun piercing through stained glass. The air is cold, as it always is. It creeps in through tiny cracks in the thick castle walls. You are a noblewoman in a medieval manor, and your life, while filled with luxuries, is far from easy. Let us gently step into her shoes. Rituals and routines. The day begins with prayer. A servant enters quietly, bowing low, and helps you rise. There's no privacy here. Even in your bedchamber, you are never truly alone. Your morning toilette involves sponging off with perfumed water and having your hair brushed out by hand. There's no soap as we know it, no shampoo, only scented oils and rosewater. Then come the layers of clothing: chemise, kirtle, gown, girdle, sleeves, and wimple, perhaps even a headdress. Everything must be tied and pinned just so. Fashion is not a matter of comfort or expression. It is duty. Appearances speak volumes, and yours must say, "I am chaste, respectable, and properly adorned." After dressing, you make your way to the chapel for morning devotions. Here, in this cold and candlelit space, you kneel on stone and recite prayers. In Latin, a language you do not fully understand, but you've memorized the words. These rituals, though tedious, are anchors, a framework within which life proceeds, offering some stability in an otherwise uncertain world. But even they carry weight, expectations, and ever-present scrutiny. 2. Meals and manners. The main meal of the day is served late morning, and it is a performance as much as it is sustenance. Seating is hierarchical. You sit on a cushioned bench, while the servants stand or eat elsewhere. Your plate may be pewter or even silver, and your food could include roasted game, boiled greens, fresh-baked bread, and sweetened fruit pastes. But while the food might sound lavish, it is not always enjoyable. Dishes are often overly spiced to cover the taste of age. Cutlery is rare. You eat with your fingers, delicately, as dictated by the rulebooks of etiquette. You must observe an elaborate etiquette, a web of expectations and silent rules that govern each bite, each sip, each exchange. Eating with the wrong hand, speaking too freely, or even appearing bored could mark you as ill-bred. Conversation is limited. You may offer a polite comment or a mild observation, but never anything vulgar or impolite. There are eyes everywhere. Other ladies, your husband's steward, visiting clergy. One wrong word can become court gossip. Even in dining, you must wear a mask of composure. 3. Women's work. Noble and not your duties include overseeing the household, a surprisingly complex task. You are expected to manage stores of food and textiles, supervise the servants, arrange for repairs, and ensure everything runs smoothly. You might spend hours bent over embroidery, working intricate patterns into fine linen. Not merely decorative, these works are gifts, dowry items, even forms of spiritual expression. You sew prayers into altar cloths. You mend clothing for charity. You prepare linens for funerals. When not sewing or supervising, you may be writing, carefully and with great effort, since ink is precious and paper is expensive. Or reading, if you are fortunate enough to be literate, from a religious text or a collection of courtly tales. Letters may be composed to distant family members to maintain alliances and express condolences or congratulations. Every word is scrutinized, every phrase weighted. Even correspondence is a form of diplomacy. Time drips by slowly. You mark the hours by the bells of the chapel, by the changing angle of the sun. For social traps and spiritual weight, every interaction is measured. A glance, a word, a gift, all carry layers of meaning. A noble lady is a diplomat, a keeper of alliances, a broker of marriages. She must remain virtuous, yet sociable, devout, yet elegant. And then there is the church. Much of your life revolves around religious observance, fast days, saints' days, confessions, pilgrimages. A sense of guilt is woven into your upbringing. You are taught that Eve's sin burdens you, that suffering is noble, and that salvation lies in obedience. Childbearing is your sacred duty and your greatest danger. Many women do not survive it, and if you are without child, the whispers begin. Barrenness is seen not just as misfortune, but as a failing, a mark of divine disfavor. You pray harder, you light candles, you donate to the poor. Your position, your reputation, your very soul, all feel perpetually under review. Entertainment and escape occasionally. There is a feast, a true escape from the monotony. Tapestries are hung, musicians play, dancers whirl. You may laugh more freely here, drink spiced wine, listen to traveling minstrels, tell tales of knights and dragons. But even joy is choreographed. You must never laugh too loudly, never drink too much. In quieter moments, you may retreat to a solar, a warm, sunlit room reserved for women, where you talk with other ladies. Teach younger girls to sew and share small gossip. These are the closest things to companionship, to sisterhood. You may even enjoy music, played softly on a lute or harp. You hum along quietly, never raising your voice. Singing loudly is unladylike. Laughter must be musical. Everything is soft edges, muted tones. Once a year, perhaps, you might travel to another manor, to a shrine, to a family estate. You ride side saddle, veiled and silent, through a countryside filled with laborers and beggars. Your world is small, but it must appear grand. Nightfall and reflection as evening falls. You wash again. More scented water, more rituals. You may say the rosary or sit quietly with a devotional book. A servant turns down your bed. You climb in fully clothed, or nearly so, as undressing is both impractical and immodest. Candles are extinguished. The castle falls silent, but never still. You can hear distant footsteps, a baby crying, a guard's voice on the wind. You lie awake, thoughts swirling beneath your lace veil. You remember a look your husband gave someone at dinner, a word left unsaid, a rumor that might concern your family. You worry about childbirth, about confession, about whether your prayers were good enough. Sometimes you wonder what freedom might feel like, to run, to shout, to laugh loudly in the open air, but you banish the thought quickly. Such musings are dangerous. The stone walls feel closer now. You shift under the covers and stare into the dark. Your world is one of luxury and limits. You are safe, but you are not free. And tomorrow you will wake and begin it all again.